Hello, everyone, and welcome to Popcorn for Breakfast. Our next movie, called Nosferatu, premieres on Christmas Day, and nothing screams Christmas like a gothic horror tale of an ancient vampire. Let's chat spoiler-free about Nosferatu.
This is Popcorn for Breakfast, presented by St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Cam and Kirk.
I love that you said that because, man, what a not Christmas movie this is.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked in the past about going to a Christmas movie, a movie on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Who's going to see this on Christmas Day?
I mean, the diehards. And I respect the people who are because I know some people who might. I bet Stefano is.
Oh, yeah.
We should ask him. But it's like this elicits the opposite of those feelings.
Yeah.
Christmas is like warm, family, love. And this is like dread, just unrelenting dread.
Yeah.
You're like, please help me. Yeah. And it's just funny having those two things. And, whenever they first started showing it, it's like, okay, well, it's like, period, it's kind of like Europe in the whatevers, I don't even know,
1600s maybe.
16th century, maybe 17th century. I can't remember.
1400s.
And so that alone, you're like, okay, that's a little Christmassy. And there's like the black and white, you're like, okay, I'm feeling it. No.
Yeah,
just no.
It's like Robert Eggers, the director, is like, this movie is very cold. And Christmas is cold.
Yes.
And I will release it on the cold day.
Yes.
He doesn't even know what Christmas is.
He's not paying attention to the holiday at all. He's just like, yeah, this is good.
December 25th
nice
is a Wednesday.
Cold.
Let's do it.
Oh man, could be.
What a guy. What a guy. Robert Eggers, director of Nosferatu, the latest installation of one of the most acclaimed vampire stories of all time. Is it correct that Nosferatu went into a legal battle against like the Dracula characters, or Dracula went into a legal battle against Nosferatu?
Well, I mean, I'm not studied up on this, but I thought Nosferatu predated Dracula.
Nosferatu predates Dracula, but
yeah,
the Dracula movie, but Nosferatu came out in like 1922.
Yes,
the film. But then Dracula was a little bit more popular, and so that's fun. This has been legal chat with with no information of Popcorn for Breakfast.
But yeah, you're right. Dracula, obviously, most iconic vampire character of all time.
Yeah.
But Nosferatu, might be the OG.
Yeah,
might be the OG. So.
He must be, with a name like that. Like that screams I'm older than the term Dracula.
Right.
But I love both of them. I'm terrified of both of them, and we're going to chat about all of that together today. We're going to chat spoiler free about our Oscar goes to who's the best actor in this film, the scene stealer who's the best supporting actor, the showstopper, a moment or a theme or the cinematography or anything that stopped you in your tracks, Cam, and said, this is what I have to talk about to make sure people know this is what is so wonderful about this movie. Director's shoes. We will tear Robert Eggers limb to limb, just like Nosferatu does with some of his victims. And, of course, our final thoughts and score. Are you ready to get into this, Cam?
I am so ready.
I get to go first. Did you know that?
You may. And I did quickly look up the Nosferatu Dracula thing because I was on IMDb while we were chatting about it.
Yeah.
And Bram Stoker is credited as a writer on this film.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, hold on. There has to be some Dracula tie-in. So apparently the Nosferatu movie is based on Dracula, the 1897 novel written by Bram Stoker.
Got it.
But unofficially. It's like, it's a knockoff. Like it's not, I don't know if that's the right way to put it. It was not like Bram Stoker wasn't like, this is a Dracula movie. And so they called it Nosferatu, but it's people are like, that's the Dracula movie.
Yeah, Nosferatu is the great value brand of Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. Though there have been other Dracula movies like the Francis Ford Coppola one.
Yes,
and many others. So
okay,
yeah, just give that little tidbit so we get our history right. But I am jealous you get to go first. I feel like I have you dialed in on this movie. I feel like I know exactly where you're going. So I'm eager to see if I'm correct, and I'll let you know if I am.
You might be correct because, as we've discussed before, we used to keep this like super private. We would drive for 45 minutes home, not speaking about the movie that we just sat and watched. But that's out the window. We can't do that anymore.
We see too many, and we drive too far to see them now that it doesn't work.
Can you imagine? Like we like put headphones in, just don't talk to each other.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work
until we record. My Oscar tonight goes to Lily Rose-Depp.
Yeah,
He knew it.
I knew.
He knew it. Yeah, I've not seen, or I don't believe I've seen Lily Rose-Depp in anything before this. She is, of course, Johnny Depp's daughter. She is, of course, the feature role in this film, who's not Nosferatu. And talk about more than a scream queen. I mean, it's not easy. Let me back up. I was about to say it's so easy to get on screen and scream. It's not easy at all. There's plenty of people who get on screen and you're like, that person should not be in a horror movie at all. But she is screaming. She's crying. Her believability is through the roof. And I think it's because she's not playing someone who is scared. She's playing someone who is scared of losing something. Instead of just her life, she's scared of losing so many other things that's attached to her life. In fact, she plays a very unselfish person. And from that perspective, from Lily Rose Depp, we get something so much more magical and so much more shaped, so many more sides than just a girl on the screen running away from a vampire. That is just so simple. Simply to put it with no spoilers, how she got this award tonight.
Yeah, she's unbelievable in this movie. There's really no other way to say it. It. Like you said, it's layered, it's multidimensional. She owns the screen. She gets so many like monologues where she's, speaking period dialogue, kind of like almost like Shakespearean sing-songy kind of moments where she's describing what's going on in her mind, what's happening in the world around her. It's beautifully done. It's pitch perfect. I was blown away. I was blown away. So it's not that I had you dialed in. I just knew that was like so clearly an unbelievable performance that it had to go to her.
The only thing I know her from is from a show that was canceled. I didn't watch the show. It was a show called The Idol. It was an HBO series show.
Yeah, the one with Abel, aka The Weeknd.
The Weeknd, yeah. And I mean, this show got the worst press I've ever seen any show ever get, and she's in that. And thank goodness that she is not a product of that trash show, that she's not just going to go and do trash show after trash show. Like, she is an artist. She is an actor, that she is ready to show the world that she's not just Johnny Depp's daughter. She's like, no, this is something that I also love and I can do. And she did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my Oscar is going to go to who plays her husband in this movie, Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult, man. And I don't give Nicholas Hoult flowers very often. In fact, I feel like I tend to dog on him a little bit. I feel like at times I've really disliked his portrayal of certain characters, even in movies where people like the movie and like his performance. I'm usually on the other side of the fence with him. And man, he was excellent in this movie. He is basically, for all intents and purposes, a normal, upstanding dude who has been sucked into a nightmare, an absolute nightmare in every sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
And we just get to, he is sort of the conduit for us, really, through this movie. We should see ourselves through him as this thing unfolds. He's, working a normal job, married, trying to live his life, trying to move up in the world, trying to do things that I think many people aspire to and would have aspired to at the time. And all these horrific things start happening because of what's going on with his wife. And he, his character, for the most part, reacts exactly how any one of us, I think, would if someone we loved was in this scenario. They're trying to do the right thing throughout. And I think that's the beauty of this, is just the simplicity and relatability of this character as he goes through this experience, and the way Nicholas Hoult portrays it. Like, it's not one of these horror movie situations where people are reacting and you're like, why are they doing this? It doesn't work. He really is doing exactly what I feel like, you would do under the circumstances. And certainly if you were in his circumstance, and he's reacting beautifully to everything that happens around him. He's trying to be the voice of reason as often as he possibly can. And it's truly just very believable and authentic from Nicholas Hoult. I think he was really well cast in this movie. that's the thing about him. A lot of times he gets miscast, and it's not
Yes.
even his fault that he turns in a performance I don't like, because he just doesn't work for the role. But here he really did work, and he's got something in his face and the way that he performs. He's got a softness and a tenderness to him, which is, it's funny because he often gets cast as characters that are very like, that can be evil. I mean, he just got cast as Lex Luthor, and he can do that too. But he has the ability to tap into something that's so warm, and that was sort of him in this movie. And he's playing this both sides of like, he's this warm person who's going through these horrific things, and so you get to see both of it. And he does great. He does really great.
Dude, I got to tell you, the only other performance that I've really enjoyed him in, two, I'll name two. I really enjoyed him in as the crazy psycho, whatever they call it, Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh yeah, the
Nux, right?
Yeah.
With he sprays his, he like gives his life up, right, for the call, right? And he was in the movie
Witness
with
me. Yeah.
that's right, with Anya Taylor-Joy, The Menu. He was in that film.
Yeah.
And everything else I have hated. I've absolutely hated
like,
of his.
I thought he was miscast in The Menu too. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, it's a cool character and he does his best. It's just, I felt like there could have been more zest there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, but then if you name off every other one of his films, including another vampire movie that came out last year, Renfield with Nick Cage, awful, just terrible. He's also in a film that's in this year of films, but is not getting any awards. I hope not. Juror number 2. Clint Eastwood. I love Clint Eastwood. I hated this movie. That movie, sorry. And he's just an enigma. He is very difficult to cast, and it is always miscast. You nailed it. You nailed it.
But he crushed it here.
He crushed it.
Absolutely crushed it.
Absolute A+. This is his rise to the leading man. This is very much still a supporting character, but a very strong supporting character. So I love that you brought that out. My scene stealer. Let's see, Cam, if you know what I'm going to pick. It's Mr. Bill Skarsgård.
I knew you were going to pick that too. I did.
Mr. Bill Skarsgård, a weird soul. He has played the likes of every scary person you can ever imagine. In this, he plays, of course, the title character Nosferatu. I didn't know what to expect out of a new characterization of an ancient vampire that is solely on this earth for destruction, for evil, and for entirely selfish reasons. How do you characterize that physically and especially vocally? We heard his incredible take on Pennywise in the It series, It Chapter 2, and spot on, nailed it. I didn't know what to expect walking into this, and it was exactly what I wanted as soon as it came out of his mouth. There are these growls that he does. The articulation is unexpected and shocking at times. He will also then just hit the most bass in his voice, and it will rattle the seat that you're in. And I will forever be haunted by so many scenes in this film because he was so scary. We're not horror movie people, really. We just go see good horror movies that get a lot of buzz that we think that are important to talk about on the podcast here. This is absolutely one of them, this film. And you can't make Nosferatu with a bad Nosferatu. So kudos to the director for making this an absolute perfect pairing of one of the most horrifying human beings I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah, you're exactly right. If my Lithuanian great Aunt Greta hadn't passed away, God rest her soul, I would think she's his dialect coach, because he was equally as haunting as she. Nice lady in theory, but she was from Lithuania and smoked basically nonstop from the day she turned 16 years old, and drank like an absolute sailor, basically like Jack Sparrow. And she sounded like this. And so that's how I know it's authentic. It's this, it's, and one time I got locked in my Aunt Greta's bathroom during 4th of July when there were fireworks going off. And I thought I was trapped in there. It was like 1,000,000 degrees. And I felt as scared at that moment with her outside talking me through the process as I did watching this movie with Nicholas Hoult. So I think he did a great job. Or not Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård.
So yeah, great job. He must have he must have been there during my childhood or something. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, this isn't actually a Transylvania accent. It's a Lithuanian accent.
No, but it's like, you know, we were talking after the movie about the R rolling. It's very clearly it's a very aggressive R roll that I cannot replicate at all. I can't roll my R's at all. But it's not a, you know, it is that Eastern European R roll, and it's the dialect is money.
Yes,
going on here. I have a hard time evaluating this performance because I was basically peeing my pants every single time he was on screen. So scary. But yeah, so I guess, yes, very good. Very good is what I'm trying to say. For my scene stealer, there's still so many standout performances left in this cast to choose from that I'm struggling. And I did foresee that you would choose Bill Skarsgård. So I'm really not even, you didn't like take one off my board per se.
Yeah.
Between Aaron Taylor Johnson, Emma Corrin, Willem Dafoe, and Ralph Ineson, I'm actually going to go with Ralph Ineson. He's the one I'm going to pick at the end of this, which is he is Dr. Wilhelm Sievers. And he is basically like the town, what would you call him, like psychiatrist? He's like the expert on sort of mental illness, but I guess maybe just the doctor in general.
I think he's just the full-on doctor. He takes on all of that.
Because he's giving medicine and stuff too, but like he seems to know about the psychiatric as well. He fits into this period so well. And he's a character actor, which is sort of a dying art these days. They tend to cast like big names in roles that would normally be filled by character actors. And so you don't see as many true character performers as you would before. Ralph Ineson, or Ineson, I never know how to pronounce his name, is certainly one of them. He's got a zillion credits. He plays a different kind of character that's always very detailed in every movie. And he just slid right in here and fit right into the period with his look, which is he's got a very like unique, iconic kind of look. He's got kind of like, I don't know, almost like, I always compare people to dogs because I love dogs. He's got almost like Basset Hound like qualities to him, you know, just kind of like with the eyelids and with the face, the way he carries his like jaw and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it works for this kind of like dour, cold, dark time. He really slides into that. And yet he's the doctor and he's sort of the voice of reason, and he's kind of watching all this stuff unfold. And so the way he delivers his lines is so matter of fact, you know, and at times it's funny. There's a moment in this movie where somebody is doing something absolutely insane and he goes, "My good man." And it's just like, it's perfect because it's exactly what his character would do, but it made me laugh really hard in that moment. And so there's so many times where insane, you know, paranormal type things are happening in this movie and he's reacting to them and he's so matter of fact about it. And that's one of the things I really loved about his performance, because it's like, you know, imagine being a doctor in that era and like having to see and deal with all the things that you would have to deal with from like the plague and, you know, God knows what else. I mean, it was just a very different time. And so he is just like a man of science, a very matter of fact guy, and he plays it so well. And I loved the cast of this movie top to bottom. I don't think there's a bad performance in here.
No.
And I would even go as far as to say almost every single person gives a standout performance, from Emma Corrin, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Willem Dafoe, everybody. They're all crushing it. But I really liked his role. It was really a fun one.
There are no small parts, and there are only giant actors in this film.
Yes.
I mean, they're just locked in, bought into Eggers' world and storytelling, and they are in it for the success and favor of this film. Let's talk about the showstopper now for this film. What's a moment or something throughout that really just you couldn't look away? You have to talk about it right now on this podcast. I'll go first. There is a moment where our lead victim, Lily Rose-Depp, and our lead perpetrator, Nosferatu himself, they finally come to each other. They are physically in the same places as one another. And there is so much. I didn't think they would physically see each other at all, and maybe until the finale, right? You know they're coming together. There is this moment where they meet, and Nosferatu gives her an ultimatum on how the rest of this is going to go, right? And she's not just like cowering in a corner, like, whatever you say, I'll do whatever you say. I believe that you are the only path to my my survival and those around me, right? No, she like battles him, like, okay, like not with like a lightsaber, but she with her words and with every inch and ounce of strength she can muster, she like goes to town with like telling him like, I don't like what you're doing. I hate that you've chosen me. I want you out of my life, and those the people that I love, I want you out of their lives. And Nosferatu is on this like philosophical debate on why he has to do it, and the clash and the intelligence and the strength between each of these characters going toe to toe is mesmerizing. In any other scenario, it should not work, and it works perfectly here. I loved watching that play out. That really just like took my breath away. It should be a scene that's like super boring. Like, here we need to put in some exposition. No, because Eggers doesn't put exposition in where it's not required. He makes everything actionable. So whatever the actor is saying, while it is part of the narrative, part of the exposition needed to know where the rest of the film is being directed towards, it's also there is an action that will take place out of what I'm saying. It's a fork in the road. It's this or that, and here's where we're going to go with it. And this entire conversation surrounding it, an entire high stakes, very tense scene, is so incredibly mesmerizing and horrifying to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I feel like they subvert your expectations in terms of how far they're going to go at this point in the movie, to where you're like, oh my goodness, like how is this going to end? Like, shoot, I'm scared. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And so that's good. You know, that's what you want from a horror film, because, you know, a lot of horror movies, run of the mill horror movies, they take you on a logical path, and you're like, it's going to peak somewhere around here. But this one really keeps you to where you're like, you never feel safe.
Never.
It doesn't matter if it's daytime, nighttime, who's in the room, who's like, you never feel safe. There is this feeling of dread and menace lurking the entire time. And that's really what Nosferatu is all about. So it's very well done. And that scene is a great moment where you're like, I don't know how this is going to end up. Like, I am scared. It's really good.
Yeah.
So this is a Robert Eggers production. And so when you talk about Showstopper, there's lots of places to go. For those of you who have or have not seen Robert Eggers movies before, he's done The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman. This is the first one without a "the" at the beginning of it.
The Nosferatu.
As it turns out, because it just didn't work. Robert Eggers, as a filmmaker, he works with his brother too. Sometimes you call it an Eggers brother production, but extreme attention to detail is the name of his game. He loves to do everything he's done has been period in some place. So he did, Vikings. He did, the Greenland, Iceland thing. He's done The Witch, which was like colonial times. He did, what was the other one I said? Lighthouse, which is like a very specific era at a very specific place. And he really commits to making his movies look and feel like it. So you could pick any one of these things for any of his movies. Nosferatu is no different. You could pick production design, you could pick costuming, you could pick lighting, you could pick whatever. I'm actually going to go with visual effects in this one, because there's this great marriage between practical and CGI that happens in this movie, to where there's not a lot of CGI in general, but the times that it's used, it's imperceptible. You can't really tell that it's happening. I'm thinking of a particular moment that's shown in the trailer with the giant hand going over the city. Yes. This giant shadow hand going over. It's beautifully done and it looks incredible. And I think that there are other moments during certain scares where you have a supernatural element, where there are certainly other visual effects happening, not necessarily in a CGI. Maybe it's something they made for the set that's like a skeleton or something. The whole commitment to manufacturing fear through visuals is extremely well done, and that in conjunction with the camera work, which is superb, and cinematography is key in any horror movie, because the camera and how it moves and what it shows you when is so key to eliciting fear in someone. And Robert Eggers clearly understood that, but the other portion of it that I think was a huge portion of it was the visuals. And when and how he chose to use them, and whether it was practical or not. It is just really effective. It's a very scary movie, top to bottom. But the other thing too, it's not just a scary movie,
Mhm.
and so I think that's the other part of it that makes it really well done. But the way that this is the first movie of his you could really describe as like a true horror movie. Like The Witch is horror, but there's no jump scares. There's nothing that's going to make you run out of the room. It's just dread the whole time.
Mhm.
The Lighthouse is just creepy, weird, eerie throughout, but it's not like scary.
Right.
This is scary.
Yeah.
And so I was interested to see how he would do that. And he used every trick in the book, but the visual effects are the thing that really got me, particularly that scene with the hand going over the city,
Oh.
the shadow of Nosferatu, kind of covering the town that they're in. And just like him lurking and being around, like it's awesome.
I heard they had Bill Skarsgård in a helicopter, and they just got the lighting
Maybe they did.
perspective just right.
But that's what I'm talking about, man. Is like, you wouldn't know. Like you might be able to, like, maybe he did something. It looks that good.
It does.
That's what's so great about it. That's what I love about it.
I am Bill Skarsgård, and I will grab your city.
Oh man,
It's kind of like that. It's not as good. That's my best impersonation of it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, director's shoes is next, and I literally have nothing on my my laptop here where I keep all my notes. The one thing I would say that I would change of this movie is the thing that I love about it most, is that Mr. Eggers, I'm so mad that you scared me so much
man.
in this film, but that's exactly what it needed. That danger, the stakes were astronomical from the moment this movie started. And I remember what was funny about our viewing is that when this movie started, the lights got left on accidentally. Have you ever been in a theater where this happens to us all the time because we see so many movies, but have you ever been into a theater where they don't turn the lights off on time? Someone forgets to, they're manual instead of timed, and someone forgets to go by and hit it at showtime. The first like 2.5 minutes lights were on, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not mad because this is supposed to be a scary movie. Someone figured it out. They turned the lights out, and there was a moment of absolute horrifying sound and imagery that happened as soon as the lights were turned off. And I said, this is what it's going to be like the whole film. Okay, all right, I'm going to cry right now out of fear. There's nothing. There's honestly, I don't have a single thing to change about this movie.
Yeah, I don't have much. I mean, when you get to a movie that's as well made as this, there's nothing from, and this has really been true of any Robert Eggers movie that I've seen. Like, from a filmmaking quality standpoint, there's nothing I can point to,
Yeah.
and say like, that was a mistake. That was poorly lit. This didn't look good. Like, they look great.
Yeah.
They just do. Like, his movies, frankly, there's nobody else doing it like him right now. from a quality perspective, his movies are going to look exactly the way he wants them to look, and the creative vision that he has is going to be dialed in. And that's what you get here, just like you got with his first 3 movies. So you really can't point to anything from the production and be like, eh. Now I think on the story side, it's a really well told story, and it's a classic story. I think the other thing is, like, this probably isn't the world's most rewatchable movie. So I think that's part of it. Like, could you rewatch it? Certainly, but it's probably not the world's most rewatchable. So when you start to nitpick about it, you can find things like that. There are, we do spend a lot of time in Count Orlok's, like, they show Count Orlok's castle. And there's a lot of time spent there. But again, it's like, I wouldn't call that overindulgence either. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to find things to pick at it. Like, this for me isn't a 10 out of 10 film, but the only reason it's not is because of those subjective things of,
Sure.
like, I like this movie better because I can watch it 1,000 times and it's going to make me feel great. Or I like this, like, there's not specific objective things that I can point to, or sorry, not objective. There aren't specific subjective things about the film itself that I can point to and say, and that's why it's this score.
Yes.
It really comes down to those really personal, subjective things here. Because, like you said, there's just not a lot to really pick at with it. But I do think rewatchability is something that I factor in personally whenever I do a movie. And you said it right after. You're like, I'm not watching that again. I was like, I think I could, but I don't know that I will. Just because of what it is and how it's done. And once you see the story, it's very straight to the brain. You don't have to think about it. You don't really have to dwell on it at all. It's just very effective, punchy, boom, done. And you're like, got it. So that's a good thing, but it's also, it could be a bad thing depending on how you look at it.
I'm glad you said the things about Count Orlok's, they had the castle, right? But I do think, rethinking my no list, I do think that in this and in the original and in Bram Stoker's Dracula, we get too much of that extra character. I think his name is Knock. And that could be shaved down just tremendously. Like, it doesn't, like, I get it. It does. It's meaningful. It's very important, but it's just meh. Like, there's so many other more interesting things.
Not the best part of the story.
Yeah. But I'm like, as soon as that comes on, it's the best way it's been portrayed. I will say that I've seen it.
Yes.
Through all the different versions, but it's just not as powerful as the other themes and motives and reactions that we see in the films. Wow. How to score this? Final thoughts and score. Cameron mentioned it. I will never watch this movie again. You can't make me. You can't pay me. But it is absolutely mesmerizing as to how well made it was. The cinematography, the story, the acting, the lighting. It's not just a dark movie. It's a movie that has all the right lighting elements, which is always warm and cool. If you have those in your movie, you're actually you have to have them in 99% of the shots. You have to have warm colors and cold colors, warm lighting and cold lighting, or a mixture of both. It's vital to the scene having life versus just being an attempt at something. And they nailed it across the board. I'll never watch it again. 9.8 out of 10. It's so good.
I love it. That's a great score. It's again, we're splitting hairs here, which means we're in 9 territory, because again, it's like, how do you score personally? Is it based on how much you like a movie and how much you'll rewatch it, or the quality of it?
I'm so scared of this movie. I gave it such a high
you don't want it to
score.
come and haunt you. I totally get that. Maybe I should do the same, but I do think Robert Eggers, I can't say enough about this guy. I really think this is, we talk about the young filmmakers who are coming up, the relatively young filmmakers who are rising up right now. He gets thrown into conversations a lot of times with Jordan Peele, and I think some of the others. What's I'm again, sickness brain. What's your guy? Beau is Afraid, Midsummer,
Aster,
Ari Aster. Those 3 kind of get thrown into conversation because they've kind of dwelled in horror, and they're very they're auteurs. They have a very specific creative vision and things like that. For my money, give me an Eggers movie. I just I didn't even love The Northman just because from a story perspective, but the quality of these films is insane. And so if you get him a good story that he can tell, whether it's him writing it, which it usually is, or whatever, if he's got a story to tell, it's going to be an unbelievable ride. And this was a great story. This was the full package for him. And so for me, this is his best movie.
Yes.
I have it above. I would put this number 1, and then I would put The Lighthouse, The Witch, and The Northman in that order personally. But this was that combination of he's got a great story here because it's a remake of something he feels passionately about. He's got his own visual eye and creative eye, which is second truly to none that are directing films right now. And I think he's one of the great geniuses that are up and coming in this industry, and is going to go on to make masterpiece after masterpiece that is going to be admired in cinema for a long time. I think he's truly a great director. So I mean, that's about as high praise as I can give. I'm giving this movie a 9.4 out of 10. I think it's superb, and I think that it's a crying shame that it's not involved in the awards discussion right now. We were kind of talking to our group chat we have with Stefano about the horror bias and how that is played into it. We gotta put an end to that. I mean, that's unbelievably antiquated with the kind of geniuses we have working in horror right now. I just named 3 of them: horror is becoming the proving ground for so many amazing art directors right now, who are putting out real cinema in the horror genre. And so that's got to go. If this thing doesn't get nominated for Best Picture, which I don't think it will, it just doesn't look like it. Maybe something changes with the campaigning and with the word of mouth once this thing comes out. I'm hoping, because every critic I've seen who's seen it thought it was unbelievable, because it is unbelievable. It's hard to pick bones with it. So I want that to end. And if we're not, as a community, as a film community, if we're not rewarding craftsmanship and artistry like this, like, what are we doing?
Right.
Truly, what are we doing? If you tell me this isn't one of the top 10 movies of 2024 overall, I just can't believe that. I refuse to believe that. I've seen most of the movies released this year, and this is easily in the top 10 for me. So it's a 9.4 out of 10. You gave it a 9.8. I mean, this thing slaps. Super well done.
One of the things that we always talk about, when you talk about the Oscars and the Best Picture winners, it should be a cultural moment. That's why that particular cast wins, or that particular director wins, or that particular film or story wins, for tons of different reasons. And the thing that it always comes back to is that, can any one person or any ensemble remake this movie, this product that came out of it? And the answer is a resounding no.
Nobody else could have done this.
Not at all. Not in the slightest. They couldn't even come near it. And that's why I will never see this again. But I would absolutely, if I'm in the Academy voting box, I'm voting this as the number one win, because there's nothing else like this.
Right. And it's one of my things that I always look at for something that wins Best Picture is, does it transcend genre? Because I think a Best Picture should. I don't think it should be able to be boxed in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a really good action movie, or oh, that's a really good drama. Like, this is horror and it's period drama.
Yep.
And like, I've never seen anything like it. So that for me checks a lot of boxes for Best Picture. Would I give it Best Picture? I don't know yet. I'm still kind of thinking through that, but it's a tough beat. It's immaculately well done.
And if you're wondering, like, oh, I'm watching Popcorn for Breakfast, do I side with Kirk? Do I side with Cam on this? I am pro Coda winning Best Picture, and I want this to win Best Picture.
Yeah, I was anti-Coda winning Best Picture. I was.
And it's because that no one could do what they do. No one could do that story. What that ensemble created. They really created a family. You could swap out different actors and you could resemble what it was trying to do, but you cannot win Best Picture without that exact makeup. And same with Nosferatu. You can't touch it.
I was trying to think about who could make this movie nearly as good. Best I came up with was like maybe Guillermo del Toro, but I still don't think he gets close.
No.
And I love his production design.
Absolutely.
And I love his eye, and I love the way he does movies, but it's like, this is the way that he did this movie is another level.
Yeah.
It's another level.
And we'll see Frankenstein from him
Guillermo,
in a couple years.
And
right?
it'll be great, I'm sure.
And it's going to be fantastic. And it's going to be something completely different than this. We leave you with that, with all of these thoughts swirling in our minds as we rate this very high. We hope that you get a chance to see this on Christmas. Grab your estranged uncles and aunts and say, hey, let's go see Nosferatu on Christmas Day after we've unwrapped all these presents.
Don't wear your favorite underwear. You may soil them. It's entirely possible. That's all I'm saying.
If you have a favorite pair of underwear as an adult, I have so many questions for you.
If you don't, I have questions for you. That's the real thing. But seriously, it's scary. Obviously, here's the caveat: we are scaredy cats.
Yes,
that's what Kirk was talking about earlier. We get scared easily, but still, this is very scary. I think this would scare even non-scaredy cats, but maybe I'm wrong. We need some non-scaredy cats to chime in.
Yes. If you have seen, if that's your lane, if horror movies are your lane, you love them, that's everything you have in your physical media shelf behind you, let us know. And let us know once you see this, if you've already seen it or if you're going to see it, how scary was it in comparison to all the things that you've consumed.
I need to know for sure.
It's wonderful. Well, again, this comes out Christmas Day. Thank you for watching and listening. You can watch it all, listen to it all on your favorite podcast place. You can listen directly from our website, popcorn4breakfast.com. That's popcorn4breakfast.com. You can see all sorts of different snippets and hilarity and other things happening on all of our social media. And we can't wait to compare every horror movie in the future.
Yes, to this.
It won't be a lot because, again, we're scaredy cats. But whatever kind of movie you like, we want to hear about it. Make sure to drop a comment, subscribe, like, and chat with us in our Discord channel as well. Thanks so much. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.